Tundra will conquer your toughest elements. With exceptional power and available 4x4, Tundra's got an iron grip on almost anything you've got. Snow? Sleet? Chill. Tundra's top flight technology is in command and ready to kick tough trails in the tail. Find your Tundra at Toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places.
Visit your Utah Toyota dealer today. Let's go places.
From your drive-in to your drive home, keep it tuned right here for all the best sports talk, local and nationally. Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700. You're tuned to the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell on KOVO Provo, KUDD HD2, 103.9 and 98.3, ESPN The Fan. Dirty with Scott Mitchell, the Utah football legend and 10-year NFL veteran on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, a proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network.
Alrighty, sports fans, welcome on in. It is the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell. I am a 12-year veteran in the NFL, not 10. I don't know where they got that information. It's incorrect. And that's what we do here on the show is we correct you when you're incorrect. So happy to be with you. Thank you for joining us. Of course, we are on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, and we're very proud to be a part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Fun show today. We get down and dirty. We don't have a lot of time, so we like to get right into it. A lot of fun things to talk about. I'm really concerned about Patrick Mahomes. I think he's fallen off the deep end. He's gone into some kind of mid-career crisis. It's like midlife, but it's mid-career because your careers are shorter. Anyways, Patrick cut his hair. I know it's going to be crazy. We have Bill Riley on, the voice of the Utes today. We're going to talk about man versus machines, and also the Indianapolis Colts and drafting a quarterback. Is quarterback competition healthy? Is that a good thing to have in the NFL? We're going to cover it all and a whole lot more. All right, I have something before we get Bill on the air here that I was driving down the road and I was thinking about Luka Doncic to the Lakers, and I'm like, how do the freaking Lakers always end up with really good players? I mean, they got Shaq. They ended up drafting Kobe. They got Magic. It just seems like they've always had the ability to find these great players, and not just one, but like to find enough to win championships with. It's one thing to get, a player, a couple of superstars, but they always seem to find that guy. And so it got me to wondering, is the league behind this? Is the league, did the league go to the Dallas Mavericks and say, look, our ratings are kind of suffering. We're losing fans. Our all-star game is horrendous. Our players are kind of spoiled and selfish. They only play when they want to play. They're kind of, they're what is it? Passenger princesses, or I guess they're NBA princesses, and they just when they decide they're gonna play, then they will.
Right.
And I wonder if the league went to Dallas and said, "We need you to do us a solid. Like we kind of we're floating here. We're struggling. So can we possibly can we take your best player? Did you mind if we just
we'll give you our third best player.
Well, and Dallas goes, okay, and what are you going to do with our best player? I mean, you want to take him where? And he goes, we're thinking of the Lakers. It's not like we're going to send him to Utah or to Portland or Sacramento or a whole bunch of other the Washington team, whatever their name is these days.
Wizards. Yeah, Wizards.
Yeah. So I'm afraid to say names, just so you know. Like I'm any name, because I know what the names used to be. I know what they used to mean. I was not offended by. And now it's just like I just don't say them. That team over there, you just pick them. I don't know who they are because I'm not saying their name. Anyways, I just wonder if the league and Dallas goes, okay, fine. I'm saying this a little tongue in cheek, but I'm not. Like I really, the league goes, we got to do some drastic stuff here. Let's create interest. And let's pair Luka with like the best player, the most well-known guy, the guy that moves the needle no matter what he does.
The guy that spends $1 million on his health every year.
Right. And LeBron, right? Because LeBron's in that conversation about the best of all time. And a lot of people think he is. A lot of people don't. But a lot of people think about it. And they think about him. And let's do that. And then it's all kumbaya, right, with the Lakers now. And I don't know. I don't know what what that means if the league really does get behind that stuff, but it really makes you wonder if they do.
So to add to that, I agree with you, Scott, and so there was a report that only was the Lakers that got a call from the Dallas Mavericks about Luka Doncic. This was supposedly created by the Mavericks. They don't want Luka. He's going to be 250 pounds this summer. He's overweight. He's not worth paying $400 million for a max contract. Let's get him out of here. He's not working hard. Let's trade him to the Lakers for Anthony Davis, who's injury prone, and 2 bench players and a pick. Like, I don't know how low ball of an offer you could even make more of for Luka Doncic like that. Like, teams came out the next day, all 31 teams are like, we could have offered 3 picks and 2 players and giving you somebody to play now, and we could have had Luka Doncic on the team. And Dallas stood by their feet. They're like, nope, the Lakers gave us the best deal. We took it. Sorry, bye. Luka off to LA.
That makes you feel like, all right, maybe I'm not so crazy. Maybe there is something behind this. And
there is.
I don't know. As a Utah Jazz fan, it's like, why can't we get Luka?
Yeah.
You know, what's wrong with us? And by the way,
why?
Like if I was at 250 pounds, which I'm not, but man, I would go for 200 million. If I, it's like, fine, you don't have to give me 400, just give me 200 million. I'll be at 250.
Yeah.
I can do that. In fact, I actually look quite good at 250. So, it's a fascinating thing that's happening with the NBA and Luka. It just smells to be like there are just things in the world that they actually, I don't know. It just kind of smells. It doesn't smell right. Doesn't pass the sniff test. I don't like it, and I actually just got a text message, by the way. James Peterson is correcting the Open to give me my 2 years. 2 years, just so you know, all you people out there in Radio Land, 2 years in the NFL, that extra 2 years is worth a lot. It's worth a lot when I get old. It's nothing more than it adds years to your oldness as far as your pension goes. So you don't want to get shorted any of those years. So speaking of not getting shorted, none other than the voice of the Utes, Bill Riley, is joining us on the program right now. Bill, good morning. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Congratulations on your new gig.
Hey, thank you. We're having fun. We have an hour. Well, we have 2 hours, and I'm old, Bill, right? So they give me like a little break in between so I can take a nap. You know, when you go to kindergarten and you're starting school, they give you a nap time, and when you get old like me, they have to give me a nap time in the afternoon so I can make 2 hours. I'm not like you. I'm not that workhorse that can just plow through 3 hours at a time. I have to take a break.
Well, hopefully they give you wrote a juice box too into your deal, so you can have that juice box in between.
Hey, I negotiated a juice box, and on top of that, I get a blanket too, and a dark little room to go in. So okay, off the top here, I'm really curious about Craig Smith and him getting fired, and I was just talking about Luka and Luka going to LA, and it feels like there's more to it than that. Coaches getting fired in the middle of the season seems a little odd. What's your take on why Craig Smith was fired and when he was fired?
Well, I mean, the timing is never perfect for something like this, and I think, when you make a change, now it's not really middle of the season. It's, we're down the home stretch.
Yeah.
We've got 4 games left in the year. So, but it is, it's a little unusual. It's a little bit more common, I think, today than it used to be. But I think one of the reasons was probably to allow the search to begin for the new coach sooner. Especially with transfer portal and roster construction and all of that stuff. I think the sooner you can have a new coach in place, the better. Now, I don't know exactly why. That would just be my supposition as to why they made that move now, because, again, the season still remains, and Josh Eilert will do a good job as the interim coach down the stretch for Utah. But it's very competitive, as you know, Scott. It's the transfer portal now. Let's face it, kids are in the portal even if they're not technically in the portal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kids, whether it's football or basketball
Sure.
or baseball, a lot of it in today's day and age, if things aren't going their way, they'll make and make that opt. So there's probably been a lot of people that are in college athletics and in basketball that have been thinking about making that move. And, it's just like the pros. It's always funny how in the NFL, the day that free agency begins at midnight, all these contracts get done at 12:01.
Yeah.
How did that happen? They got that deal negotiated in 1 minute in the middle of the night? No. The handlers and agents and things like that are doing that legwork. So I think probably again, it's never easy to make a change. There's never a perfect time to do it. But my guess would be it allows the search for Mark Harlan and his committee to make that, sooner rather than later. It's the whole thing that if you're going to make the change and you're going to make the change in a competitive market, which college coaching is, probably better to make it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I wonder if it kind of sends a message that the university is like, look, we're serious about competing in the Big 12. What's happened is okay. I'm a big fan of Craig Smith and what the coach he is and what he's done, but the university feels like they need to go in a different direction. What is the time frame for the transfer portal in college basketball and the recruiting, and like when you say they got to really get on this, when does it open up after March Madness, right as the season's over? Conference championship.
When your season is done, whether it's in a conference tournament or whatever, that's when kids can begin to declare that they're leaving. Now, I don't know the official date on when you can sign, but that's when they kind of become quote unquote free agents. Back to your point, I think the sign in making the change, as you just said, is exactly what you said. Basketball is important at the University of Utah. It's important to Mark Harlan. Heck, it's important to Taylor Randall, the president. He is a huge basketball fan.
Yeah.
And I think by making this move, they are saying we want to compete regularly in the NCAA tournament. Program hasn't been there in 9 years, Scott. That's a long time for the 15th winningest program in NCAA history. We want to compete at the highest level of the Big 12. So I think that basketball is important, and making the move when they did should be a sign to fans that they're very serious about this position.
Is the BYU model something to look at, to replicate, where you get kind of a known NBA name? Because it certainly seemed to have an advantage or at least an interest in the top player in the country deciding. And I understand NIL money was part of it, which I think that model is that BYU said, we're going to put the money into this. They have a booster or boosters or whoever it is, and I think a lot of us know who that is. But but also having that kind of NBA experienced coach as your coach, is that something that Utah would look to model, or is that possible at Utah?
Well, I think it's possible anywhere. What you have to find is a coach that is adaptable to today's landscape of college basketball, which in many ways is a lot more like a pro model today because of NIL and the money that's now part of it for athletes. So what BYU did is certainly a direction to go. You have to find somebody who can coach.
Right.
But it's not just about coaching anymore. It's about being able to manage personalities as it always has. It's being able to, you articulate a system that will develop players. Because, Scott, you're a football player. Everybody has the thought, I want to play on the next level. I want to play pro basketball, whether it's the NBA or Europe or whatever. And whoever you hire has to be able to also develop those guys, or at least take them to another level. The days of having guys for 3 or 4 years is probably, it's going to be the outlier now, whether it's football or basketball. But you have to be able to tell a kid that's coming to your program, whether out of high school, junior college, or transferring from another school, you're gonna play winning basketball here, and my staff and I, we're gonna make you better. We're going to be able to improve your game and help you get to whatever that level might be. It doesn't have to be somebody that's a pro coach or has pro experience, but there are guys that can do it. But you have to have somebody that can improve, help convince kids, and improve on the court, that you can get kids improvement, get them to stay together, and help them get to where they want to go.
You have to wonder in college basketball and in college football, as Coach Whittingham mentioned the same thing. You don't get kids that long. You don't get kids long enough to really put your arm around them and really help them grow and help them develop. And that's one of the really secret sauce things that's been so good about the Utah football program, is the ability to develop players. And you talk about this in basketball as well. And I just wonder that as NIL gets to be a bigger part of what's happening, and the decisions these players make, and they're not being in a program that long, where does that – it almost seems like it could hurt a player down the road if they end up going to the pros, because they really haven't had that seasoning, they haven't had that development. And the NFL is just like, we're going to throw you out if you can't handle it here, and you can't manage it. Anthony Richardson, who's the number 1 pick. Of course, he played at Florida against Utah, and he was a raw guy, and so he left early, and he's kind of struggled to find his development. So I wonder, what kind of impact it has on the game, and really the long-term viability of a lot of these kids, careers.
Well, I think it's tougher now because, to your point, you're generally not going to have kids 3 or 4. You'd love to if you can, but it's not going to happen as often maybe. So when you're a coach or a coaching staff, you have to be a lot more – you have to be as selective as you can be, and you have to really evaluate these kids that you're looking at, that you're going to bring in, because – You need them to fit what you're doing. You need to know that they can buy in and that they will work with what your philosophy is. I think your philosophy has to be a core. You have to be a little bit, I think, flexible with it a little bit, because your roster is going to change a little bit annually. But I think the job has become tougher for coaches now because of the revolving door. And you're looking at these kids and you're like, well, this kid can really play, and that's good, but can he play within how we want to play? We can adapt a little bit to him. Can he adapt to us? So I think that's the challenge that college basketball coaches, volleyball coaches, football coaches now face, because there's tons of talented kids out there. But can you find the kids that are talented and will mix well with what you want to do? That's really the key.
You got to choose wisely, for sure. Speaking of basketball and choosing those players, what's the player, the position that really can move the needle for a program? I mean, if you're Utah and you're going out and you're saying that we need to build our foundation around this type of player. If we can find this player, that's our number 1 priority when we go out and look for guys.
I think the one spot that the Big 12, the really, really good teams in the Big 12 have is a dude that you can just kind of give the ball to and say, go get us a bucket. Does that make sense? It's usually a combo guard or a wing. But somebody, and that's really, where Utah's had some struggles this year and the last couple of years is having that one guy. Although Davon Smith was pretty good at it a year ago, he's now at St. John's. But when the play breaks down, when the shot clock gets down to 5 or 7 seconds, who's that one guy you can say, here's the ball, go make a play for me? A scorer, one of those type guys that can get downhill or create his own shot without having 2 or 3 screens and picks set for him. So I think that's what you have to have, especially in the Big 12, because when you look at teams like Houston and Iowa State and Texas Tech, some of the better teams in the league this year, that's the type of play. Some of those teams have 2 or 3 of those guys. But to me, you got to have at least one of those guys, that ball-in-hand guy that's going to get you a bucket.
Scott, go ahead, Scott.
Really quick, Mark. March Madness is coming up, and no one's listening, Bill. So can you tell me who's going to win this thing? I need to fill out a bracket. I want to be intelligent about it.
March Madness?
Yeah, so I need to fill out a March Madness.
It's like a month and a half away.
No, it's February 26th. March is happening in a couple of days.
March.
Look, I like to be on top of things.
It's going to be over for like a month and a week or two.
Look, just text me the best team so I can fill out a bracket. All right, we don't have to do it over the air.
I'm not allowed to do that now in my new role.
Oh,
but I can.
You can't do a bracket.
No, I'm not allowed to do that. So I work for a university now. I'm not allowed to do that stuff.
Oh.
So. But I can certainly give you some pointers.
Okay. Yeah, I just need
based
pointers.
Based on my knowledge of college basketball.
Is Houston a good pointer?
Some teams. Houston's really good, Scott. The thing about them is they play so hard, and they're so tough, and they're so physical. Yeah. And in prior years, they didn't shoot it very well, but they've got 2 really good shooters. I think if I was picking a Big 12 team to make a deep run, it would be Houston.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Bill, I wanted to ask.
There's some other good schools, by the way. Auburn,
yes,
really good. Alabama, the SEC's got 3 or 4 of them as well. The SEC is having a really, really good year this year in basketball.
Bill, I wanted to ask you this one question. We talk about candidates for this new position for the running Utes. One name that may be mentioned when it comes to it is Chris Burgess, who's still down at BYU. Kebaketa has another year or 2 left. He can come back. What is something that Utah has to do, Mark Harlan has to do to get Chris Burgess' attention and maybe get him back up to Salt Lake City and kind of be with the running Utes and get him back on track?
I can't talk about hires, Martin. I can't talk about those within the university setting. That's kind of out of my purview and above my pay grade. So I can't talk specifically about any particular candidates for the Utah job.
Well, one more question I have for you then to the floor. Utah struggled at shooting the threes. They only had 2 games this season where they made more than 10 threes. What's something they have to do next year with either shooting less threes or shooting better threes or being more competitive at that?
Well, I think their best shooter was the top of the scouting report guy. So I think if you can get a little bit more balance on the floor, it opened. When you have guys that the ability to penetrate or guys you can throw the ball to in the post, that opens things up for shooters on the perimeter. So obviously you want to have as much shooting as you can possibly get. But if they have that ability to find somebody that can get downhill to the basket or somebody they can throw the ball into the post, then that ball can come right back out to an open shooter. So I think those are some of the things. It's going to be really interesting to see whoever gets the head coaching job, what their philosophy looks like and the type of player that they go out and get. But the one thing that I will say is, especially in basketball, there's no shortage of really good coaches out there. You just have to find the guy that's right, that can connect with your program, the history of the program, connect with the community a little bit, and build it the way it needs to be built to compete in the Big 12. So I'm going to be really curious. I let me just say this though too, Scott. Craig Smith was awesome to me, and he's a good basketball coach, and he's a great human being, and I will miss working with him for sure because he treated me so well. But I understand where the university was coming from for sure. But I'll miss my conversations. We always had a good time on the coaches shows, and I wish Craig nothing but the best, and I look forward to catching up with him sometime soon.
Yeah, I'm a fan, and I'm sure he'll end up on his feet. Okay, so spring football happens in March, right? So that it happens before March Madness. I guess March Madness should be April Madness, if you're telling me correctly. But we're typically kind of we overanalyze spring practice. How much more significant you think it needs to be and will be, if at all, with the new coaching system on offense and new players? Does it take on a different meaning, or is it just status quo?
No. I think this year, I mean, it in today's day and age, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, because rosters just turn over quite a bit. I think spring football is important because that's where you can do some install. I mean, you're going to have every year you're going to have 30 or 40 new faces probably on your football team between incoming young players and transfers. So the spring is where you get a chance to, kind of get to work out with these guys and kind of beginning some install and terminology. You know all this, Scott, from all season OTAs and stuff. But I think this year in particular, especially on the offensive side of the ball, with Jason Beck coming in and bringing a new offensive philosophy in, and a lot of new skill guys, a new quarterback room, really, in a lot of ways, veteran offensive line. I think this spring is. Every spring moving forward is going to be interesting and a little bit different. But this one in particular, because you're bringing in on one side of the ball a completely new look, staff, offensive terminology, stuff like that. I think this one's a little more important for Utah than others have been.
I'm a little worried for you.
Why?
Just so you know. Well, if those of you out there listening don't know, Bill Riley is a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan. And of course, tough loss in the Super Bowl, but they've had a heck of a run, and I don't think they're done running with it yet. At least I hope not. But what I'm concerned about is Patrick Mahomes. He cut his hair, Bill, and you know what happened to Samson when he cut his hair? Like, he lost his power. I'm just a little concerned. I don't know if he's going through like a mid-career crisis, that he's changing his image, he's cutting his hair. I don't know what's going on, but
Tom Brady
I'm worried.
had like 7 different haircuts during his career. You were always a high and tight guy, so you never really let the locks flow too much, did you?
I mean, I tolerate haircuts. That's kind of my philosophy with hair. It's like, I think as I've gotten older, I do it less. And I have a guy, that cuts my hair, and he doesn't live close to me, so I gotta.
You drive to Springville.
I got a journey to see my guy, but he's worth it. He's worth it to me.
Well,
and
that tells me he's a good barber. If you're driving to Springville to get your hair cut, I mean,
shout out to Mark Anthony.
Like royalty in Springville.
Yeah,
here's what I'm more worried about than Mahomes' hair is his left tackle. That worries me more than the hair does. I think he can overcome the hair, but if they don't fix that left tackle spot, he's just going to keep seeing ghosts.
Well, I'm sure they'll address it, because they're still really good, and he's really good, and I think this kind of galvanized him a little bit, and I think you're going to see a much more, and not that he wasn't, but I think you're going to see a different focus, a different Patrick Mahomes next season when it all starts.
Well, you know this, Scott, as a competitor, the losses stick with you a lot more than the wins do. When you remember those things, and the losses will motivate you a lot more than winning will. Am I right?
It's a sad thing, a sad commentary. I think us as just humans in general, we always seem to get things right when they've been bad. I mean, I think it's kind of going on at the University of Utah, maybe in multiple sports. In basketball, I know in football they are not happy about what's going on there right now, so they're doing what they can. There's no question that you feel the losses, and the reality is you don't have a job if you lose. So you gotta figure out how to win a lot more than you lose, and not get comfortable with losing. It's just a really hard thing to do. All right, thanks.
How did I do helping you with your 20 of your 60 minutes?
Oh, I love talking to you. I could talk to you all show long. I mean, it's awesome.
We'll do it. Let's do it every week. We'll talk some spring football. The boys will be out on the field here in a couple of weeks. We'll we'll talk a little bit more basketball, Big 12 tournament coming up, so we'll have a lot to talk about.
All right, Martin, don't ink it, or don't pencil him in anymore. So we have to ink him in. We'll ink Bill Riley in every week. So
10-4.
Love to do it.
I have it on there.
All right, thanks, Bill. I hope you have a great day and appreciate you coming on.
See you, Scott.
All right, be good. All right, this is the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Fun conversation with my good friend Bill Riley and the voice of the Utes. We're going to come back and talk a little bit about quarterback competition. Don't go away.
No, it's fine. Bill, I'm learning. You talk to me on there, you're teaching me, I listen. I want to. I'm gonna keep working, buddy. Whew. Like that.
Hello again, sports fans. Welcome back. It is the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell. Fun hour today. If you miss this hour, never fear. You do follow my day path. Just take a nap, or tune into Sean O'Connell, who follows me here on ESPN 700. Sean's awesome. He says amazing things. You want to listen to him. Actually, I'm going on Sean's show today. And then come back in the afternoon and you catch us on our sister station, because I'm on the ESPN network of stations here. So you can catch us on 103.9 or 98.3. It's just based on where you live. right? So if you live here in Salt Lake, you get on which one?
792.1.
I'm talking about in the afternoon.
In the afternoon,
Fan.
you get on 103.9, 98.3.
So 103.9 is here in Salt Lake, and 98.3 is up in Ogden, Davis.
Yeah, 103.9 is Salt Lake, 98.3 is Utah County.
Okay, so we go up into Davis County with, yeah.
Yep, 92.1 FM would be Davis.
Gotcha. Anyways, Martin, he knows all those numbers. But there's a lot of them, and you can tune into any one of them depending on where you are, and you can catch us, so we love having you.
Got to keep up with them.
Yes, you got to keep up with them. If you're a Utah fan, you might remember a few years ago one Anthony Richardson, who was a quarterback at Florida, who made basically, I think, 2 plays all game long and broke the back of the Utes. Well, actually, Utah was on its way to go score the winning touchdown, and fate would have it, it didn't happen. It's a painful loss for Utah. Would have been a big win in the swamp, but the quarterback, of course, was a top 5 pick for the Indianapolis Colts. Tremendous talent, tremendous athlete. And the discussion now with the draft coming up, Chris Ballard, the GM for the Colts, is saying the Colts want to acquire. He didn't necessarily say draft, because I don't know that if you draft a guy, are you really in a better position, because you're still going to go through the growing pains. So it almost sounds like they want to acquire an off-season quarterback to give real competition for Chris Ballard. In fact, this is what, or for Anthony Richardson. Here's what Chris Ballard had said about that. It's going to be the right guy to create real competition, he said. We want to create real competition. I think it's good for the team. I think it's good for Anthony. We drafted Anthony high knowing it was going to take some time. And we knew there's going to be some hiccups along the way. I know we all want a finished product right now. Duh, I think we all do. I do. You do. We all do. I just made that part up.
Do.
But I think as he continues to progress in his young career, us adding competition, I think, will help everybody's game. Okay, let me read between the lines here for just a minute. When the GM says, I think he's going to continue to progress in his young career. And whenever they bring in competition, they're not happy. Okay, let me just tell you right now, they're not happy, because this isn't oh yeah, we got this really good player, we really want him. They're not sure about Anthony Richardson. They're not sure, is he tough enough? Does he have the skills enough? Is he good enough to really play at this level? And here's the challenge. Here's the challenge if you're Anthony Richardson. And it's really the challenge with any really athletic player. I don't care what position. It doesn't matter. When you're younger and you're playing at a lower level and you're just a superior athlete, you just out-athlete people. A lot of people do that. And you're just better, right?
Yeah.
So most SEC schools, they out-athlete. And so the one that wins is the one that out-athletes all the other athletes. They're the out-athleter. They're the mosters that they out-athlete people. Now, why Nick Saban was so good is he says, "Yeah, I'm gonna teach you. I'm gonna coach you. I'm gonna skill you. I'm gonna skill all my athletes, and then you know what? Then we're gonna win a whole bunch of freaking national championships." And you see a lot of Alabama guys that go on in the NFL, and guess what? They play, and they play well because they've been well prepared. And not just athletic-wise, but skill-wise. So it's really hard when you're an Anthony Richardson, who didn't really get that time to develop at Florida. And I don't know if he would have, because he should have stayed. I firmly believe he would have been so much better off if he would have stayed at Florida. And he didn't. And so now you're at a level where, all right, I gotta really, I gotta buckle down. And the team will give you a pass for a certain period of time. I mean, they anointed the guy like right off the bat. But then they're like, well, now you haven't really developed. And so we're gonna bring in a guy because here's the other side of it. The owner of the team goes, I'm not in the development business. I'm not in product development. I'm not in research. The R&D is not our program. Our program is we're in the freaking winning business. So enough with the development crap. Enough with whatever. And it's a fine line for coaches because you go, where do we project this guy? Is he going to be that guy? And I've said this often, and it's like, I wish I had a coach like Mike Holmgren, who went to Brett Favre and said, "You're my guy. You do not run the West Coast offense like Joe Montana. You're not that precision that And quite frankly, Joe Montana, was a master at it. You're not Steve Young. You don't run the West Coast offense. You're Brett Favre. And you run the West Coast offense like Brett Favre, which is basically the West Coast offense in a blender, and it just gets all scrambled and mixed up, and it goes all over the place. But you're my guy, and I'm going to win with you. And he did, and he stuck with him. And so Anthony Richardson has a coach and an organization that goes, yeah, well, we're not sure we want to just hang our hat and die on your sword. So we're going to bring in competition and kind of see where you end up with things, and if you actually are really that good. So the question, Martin,
yes,
who do they get? Because when I read this, a whole bunch of names popped into my head, and what would they look like
right
in Indianapolis?
What's interesting, to add a little context to this, the last two seasons, they had Gardner Minshew, who was in there, who almost got them to the playoffs, and they had Joe Flacco in there as well, who won them some games last year. Someone to bring in, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure if it's a veteran. I'm not sure if it's a rookie. I'm not sure how old of a veteran you want. I mean, for that team, what if Matt Stafford is the answer? What if he doesn't get traded to any of those teams? Maybe Matt Stafford gets traded to Indy and he does a Matt Ryan, 1 year swan song or something like that. I think Indianapolis has to look at how their offense needs to be structured, because if Richardson doesn't like to stay in the pocket and actually run the offense like it's structured, then you need someone in there who can do some structure.
So there's a lot of answers. Matthew Stafford's certainly one of them. I don't think Matthew Stafford's going to leave the Rams.
I don't think so either.
I really don't. I don't think, at least not this year. And quite frankly,
I mean, if they needed a solid veteran who's played the last couple seasons, Geno Smith from Seattle is decent.
No. I'll give you the guy.
Okay.
I want to finish my thought on Matthew Stafford first, though.
Okay.
Matthew Stafford is the most underrated, talented guy in the NFL. He's and there's a lot of people that respect him, but people don't talk about Matthew Stafford like they talk about Aaron Rodgers.
No.
And they've won the same amount of Super Bowls. I mean, people talk about Aaron Rodgers being one of the great all-time guys, all time. And I'm going to tell you right now, nobody throws the ball as like Matthew Stafford. I mean, the dude can throw it. I mean, he can throw it. And you think of, early on in his career, he threw for umpteen million yards. And of course, he had Calvin Johnson. He was on very bad teams in Detroit, took a beating. But the guy delivered. I mean, the guy was extremely productive because he was so talented. I mean, he was really, really a good player. And then he got to a place in Los Angeles and in a system and with good players and goes to and wins a Super Bowl, but does it throwing the heck of the football. I mean, he made some just incredible throws in some of the most clutch situations when he was with the Rams. And he's not slowing down. Like, he played really good last year and has played really good when he's healthy. And I think he's got a lot still left in his tank. But, man, more people should be talking about Matthew Stafford. And I think there's still a little bit of the stigmatism of his early career with Detroit that, kind of you don't really have that. Like, he's one of the most elite quarterback. I mean, he should be up there as one of the best guys in the league right now. You're always talking about Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and maybe Joe Burrow. And then you got older Aaron Rodgers. And people don't he's the fifth or sixth or seventh or eighth name that comes up, and he should be one or two. I mean, that's how good I think Matthew Stafford is, and I think he's very, very undervalued. But I don't think he's the guy for Indianapolis. And the guy that popped into my head is a guy like Kirk Cousins.
I was about to say the same thing.
And Kirk Cousins is that consummate professional. And it's like if you have a son and you go, I want my son to be tutored or mentored, like Kirk Cousins would be that guy, and he would willingly do it. Like he'd say, oh yeah, I'll take care of your boy. And he'll put his arm around him, and he'll, because this whole thing about mentors and quarterbacks in the NFL, people got all like upset a few years ago when I can't remember who it wasn't going to mentor a quarterback, and he's like, I didn't come here to mentor a quarterback. I came here to win football games. I came here to play football. Any good quarterback, it doesn't sit. Dan Marino didn't sit me on his lap, didn't put his arm around me. I just watched. By the way, Brett Favre never did it for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers probably doesn't do it for other people as well. Like you're nice to the guys on your team. You talk to them. It's all that stuff. But you're not out there going, okay, my job is to mentor you, to help you. It's BS. And anyone who says different, and anyone who says, oh, how dare you not mentor that player, is full of crap. Just so you know, Steve Young was not mentored by Joe Montana.
Nope.
Not at all.
Nope. Joe hated him.
And so it's not this thing where people it's like, you need to understand you're an independent contractor when you're a football player. You're a business in and of yourself, and you've outsourced your services to an organization to utilize. But you're a business by yourself. So your promotion, your marketing, the development of you is on you. When we talk about LeBron spending $1 million on himself, he is a independent contractor subcontracted to the NBA to play for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yes.
And so you're a business. Anyways, but Kirk Cousins, saying all of what I just said, would be the nicest guy in the world, and he would actually mentor your son, and he would take really good care of him, and you would see what it takes, because that's the dilemma for an Anthony Richardson, and it's a dilemma for all of these really athletic quarterbacks. The guy to really look at if you're an athletic quarterback is Steve Young. Steve Young was so athletic, it was ridiculous. He was so athletic they didn't want him to play quarterback, and he just refused not to relent. And he finally figured out how to be a really good quarterback, and he had to kind of subdue the athleticism, and he had to learn to read defense, he had to learn to make throws, and he had to learn to hang in the pocket, and he had to learn to trust and learn at what he was seeing and react to it, as opposed to panicking and flushing out of the pocket too quick and exposing yourself to injury or to the potential of injury. And he learned it, and he did it, and it's hard. It's hard when you're super athletic to subdue that. And Anthony Richardson it clearly is having a bit of a challenge with that
Break coming up
now. So a Kirk Cousins, I'll tell you who might be available is I could see Aaron Rodgers going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I could see him getting rid of Russell Wilson, and maybe Russell Wilson's the guy that comes in. Who knows? There's a lot of fun. It'll all happen. We're going to eventually follow it, but the dominoes will trickle to all of these places, and we'll have new quarterbacks in new places. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We're going to talk about can I trust a computer to call balls and strikes? That's what I want to know. It's a Down and Dirty, ESPN 792.1 FM.
I'm learning. Bill, I'm always appreciative. You tell me a no, yes, no, yes. That's it.
If we get on this recording the other show right when we're done, we can be done by noon.
Okay.
Then I can come on Sean's show at noon.
10-4.
I gotta go down to trouble with the engineers.
Mike's hot.
Alrighty, sports fans, welcome back. It is the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Hey, if you don't catch our show, because we're kind of at the end of it right here, you can always jump over to our sister stations at 1 o'clock, 103.9 and 98.3. And guess what? You can hear them all the way from Ogden down to Utah County. And if the signal isn't as strong, just flip over to the other one. That's how we roll here. We want to make sure you hear us and you hear us well. And we're everywhere. Okay, Max Scherzer is not happy about the automated ball strike system. He's a sad camper. And he thinks that can we just be judged by humans? Now, here's what I think his beef is, okay? Because one of the great things about baseball is when umpires and players kind of get into a tiff, right? And I've learned through the years that there's certain words you can't say unless you want to get ejected. Like you, blank blank blank, you can't say you.
No.
So if you talk in general terms, but when you start with you, then it's over. Yes. Like you're out. And I think Max wants that because it's kind of a scary slope. But as horrible as Major League Baseball umpires are at calling balls and strikes, and there's some that are horrendous. I mean, we've seen some just egregious things. I would be much more inclined if I'm a pitcher in Major League Baseball. I want, if I'm throwing a strike, I want to know that it's a strike, and I don't want any error on it. I don't understand why they couldn't have done this before now. I guess, to me, I guess the technology is every batter isn't the same height, so the strike zone is going to move up and down.
Yes.
I mean, the width of it isn't going to change. That's always the same, but the floor and the ceiling on it will be adjusted according to who the hitter is. And we have incredible technology today, and so I like it. But I guess my fear would be AI. Like AI is kind of taking the world over, and it's scary. It's scary, the potential of what AI could do, because you could almost go, okay, I'm facing, a Shohei Ohtani, and so AI goes, oh well, here's the pitch you need to throw him, and the sequence of pitches, and that's where it could end up, and just because it could actually tell you what to do before you actually do it, and then Shohei gets his analytics from AI, and it says you're going to receive, a curveball away on the first, and so
they're kind of doing that already.
It could really take over. You see it happening in football. Everyone talks about the analytics, right, and now the analytics in football are go for it. That's the analytic. It's like, oh, we spend all this money, we do all this stuff to analyze it. It's like, just go for it.
Yeah,
it's fourth down and 20. Go for it.
Yeah,
you're better off to go for it, even though you're on your own 10 and you got 20 yards. Go for it.
You got a 34% chance of making it. You got to go for it.
You know what? It's because of gambling. Gambling has desensitized us to any kind of normal thinking and normal thought process. We're here, just who cares about the consequences of all of this? Just go for it.
Yeah.
Because I think now, getting back to balls and strikes, I don't have a problem with that. But I think it would be kind of fun if you could actually argue with like the robot, right? They have robots in restaurants that bring your food out. Have you seen those?
I have seen that.
Yeah, and they sing happy birthday to you,
Right.
and all that stuff. And they don't ever run into anything, right? They come out and they miss the people, and they and so I think it would be fun to have an argument with a robot, just to hear what the robot is going to say back to you.
No, incorrect. The ball was a strike. It hit the corner by an inch. Go by.
And you look hideous today. What kind of uniform are you wearing? You need to look at yourself in the mirror. Your arm is weak and you can't throw over 90 miles an hour. Go back to the minor leagues where you belong. And how do you argue with that? You can't.
You can't.
You can't argue with that. So there you go. Balls and strikes. We want to see them. We want to see arguments with robots, and let's just shoot. Why even have humans in the game anymore? Let's just throw in all these AI bots out there to do everything, and we'll just sit back and watch.
Maybe they can throw 150 miles an hour. Maybe we can see that for the first time in the MLB.
Yeah, and it would be interesting to see perfect games every time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, be fun. All right, well, that's going to do it for us here on the Down and Dirty. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of the show. Hope you enjoy it. Tune in a couple of hours at 1 o'clock on our sister station, 103.9, 98.3, The Fan on ESPN. So happy. Thanks, Martin, for being here. Thank you all. And until then, we'll see you then.
I like that. Until then, we'll see you then. That sign-off is perfect.